All right, Brittany, it looks like everyone is in. So you can go ahead and start.
Good afternoon. I am Brittany Clark, and I will be leading our Lunch and Learn today. Welcome to our training titled Let's Break It Down. Today, you are going to learn what a task analysis is and how we can use it in our classrooms and our homes. But first, let me tell you a little bit about our project. LaSard is just one of the projects in the Human Development Center. For more information about our services and programs, or to contact the Human Development Center, please visit our website, which is listed here, or by scanning this QR code. The Human Development Center is Louisiana's only University Center of Excellence in Developmental Disabilities, or UCED. The Human Development Center offers programs to support people from birth throughout their educational careers and adult lives. LaSard is a K-12 initiative at the Human Development Center. Our interdisciplinary team consistently works together to find innovative ways to help districts, teachers, and students grow throughout the state. Our goals for today's training will be for you as the participants to understand the importance of using task analysis in the classroom and at home, learn the steps to create and implement a task analysis, and see some examples of task analysis that can be used. So what is a task analysis? A task analysis breaks down complex tasks into simple to teach steps. We can use task analysis frequently in our daily lives. Some task analysis that we see daily are instructions that help us put things together or recipes that help us cook. We can also use a task analysis on skills we are teaching to our students at school by breaking down that skill into simple, easy to teach steps. So why do we use it? We use a task analysis to provide consistency. We also improve comprehension by simplifying complex tasks, and we also can increase our students' independence. This is an example of what we see all the time, especially in our post-COVID world. Following these steps when washing my hands keeps me safe from germs. So I want to follow these steps every time I wash my hands. By breaking down this task into easy steps, I've learned to complete this task consistently and independently. So when do we use a task analysis? It can be used to teach a variety of skills. We can use it for routines, social skills, academics, self-help, behavior, communication, and transitions. So now we know what a task analysis is. Now we're going to talk about how do you do it? How do you implement it either at home or in your classroom? So we're going to talk about each step in detail, but I wanted to go over the 7 steps prior to going to each individual one. So the 7 steps of having a successful task analysis are: number 1, identify the target skill and collect baseline data. Number 2, break the skill into smaller steps. Number 3, rehearse the task analysis to make sure steps are well defined. Number 4, determine how the skill will be taught. Number 5, develop materials. Number 6, implement. And number 7, monitor our progress. In step 1, you will need to identify the target skill and collect the baseline data. Throughout this session, we will use the example of hand washing as our targeted skill. The first thing you're going to do is to determine the task. The first thing you're going to do is to observe the student doing the task, because you need to determine what parts of the task the student can do independently and where the student may need support to complete a step of the process. For example, you can tell a student, go wash your hands. And while they're washing their hands, you are standing close by to document what the student can and cannot do. When you're looking at certain things, have questions in your mind. Does the student go to the sink? Do they turn on the water? Do they know how to wet their hands? You're going to note the steps that the student can and cannot complete. For tasks that require certain prerequisite skills, now is the time to note those and teach any skills before implementing the task analysis. Another thing to consider is physical limitations or environmental adaptations. For example, if a sink is too high for a student, or if the student does not have the motor control to turn on the faucet, consider how you can adapt the environment to help the student meet their goal. The second step is to break the skill into smaller steps. To document the steps of a task, you could find an expert in the task who could be observed or will provide you with the documented steps of the process. For example, a math teacher could provide you with specific steps for solving an equation. Another more commonly used method is to perform the task yourself and then document the steps. For example, we broke hand washing down into 8 steps. The 8 steps are: turn water on, wet hands with water, put soap in hands, rub hands together, rinse soap off hands, turn water off, get paper towel, and dry off your hands. Knowing your students is important when you are determining how much you need to break down the task. Some students may need additional steps, like walk to sink or press soap pump, and others may need less. This is up to your professional judgment based on your knowledge of the student. The task analysis can also be revisited if the student is not successful once implemented. The next step is to rehearse the task steps to make sure the student steps are well defined. In this step, the teacher will go through the steps and ensure each step is concisely broken down in sequence to complete the target skill. Even if a skill is relatively simple, it is easy to leave out steps. One way of doing this is to have another person follow the steps exactly as written to confirm whether the task analysis is accurate. If needed, the teacher can use the feedback to revise the component steps before teaching the task analysis to the students. Now that we have determined what the targeted skill is and the steps that will be in the skill, now it is time for the educational team to decide how to teach the task analysis. It is important to consider the learner, their experiences, and the overall goal. The three procedures for teaching a skill through task analysis are forward chaining, backward chaining, and total task presentation. The chains referred to are the steps of the task, which could be thought of as a link of a chain. With forward chaining, the first link in the chain or step of the task is taught to mastery before moving on to the second step. For example, the skill of hand washing, the teacher would prompt the student to turn the cold water on, reinforce them when they do it, and then assist the student as needed to move through the rest of the steps of the process. The next step, wet hands with water, would be taught next, once the first step is mastered. With backward chaining, you teach the last step or the last link in the chain first, which would be to dry hands. The teacher prompts the student through the steps until the final step. Then she teaches the final step with reinforcement once the step is completed. That step is taught until the student can reach mastery. Then the next to last step is taught. In the washing hands example, the teacher may physically prompt the student through the first few steps. Then for the final step, she may point to the picture, say dry hands, and use a modeling prompt or other less intrusive prompts than a physical prompt. When the student does dry his hands, he needs to be reinforced, and he is finally finished with that task. Sometimes finishing the task is also reinforcing to the student. Once he can independently dry his hands over a few tries, the student will focus on grab paper towel, and so on as he progresses. The teacher guides the student up the chain until reaching the starting point of the task. The third type of teaching is total task. In this, the learner performs the entire chain with reinforcement at each step. With total task presentation, the student is prompted and reinforced for each step, and a larger reinforcement is available when the task is complete. For example, if a student is already familiar with the procedure of hand washing and can physically perform each step, but needs to focus more on the performance and just practice the skill to mastery rather than learning how to do it, this is when you would use the total task analysis procedure. Again, before deciding which of the 3 teaching methods to employ, it will be important to assess your students' current level of performance and also make decisions about how to best cue or prompt the students to allow for greatest level of independence while learning the skill. Reinforcement is another critical component for consideration when teaching, especially for tasks that students prefer not to do at all. If a student does not like water, then he or she will likely need a higher level of motivation and more frequent reinforcement throughout the performance of steps of hand washing. Once you determine how you will teach it, next, you will identify the materials needed to teach the task. Some students may need pictures with the steps listed, like what you see here. If pictures are being used, consider if the student needs actual photos or line drawings. Other students may just need a written list. Other students may benefit from a video showing each step. It's also important to know your student and know what they may need. Think about yourself. Do you ever look up things online that you don't know how to do? I think about when I need to learn to do something new around the house. For me, it's cooking. Don't know about you, but I could burn water. I need a task analysis to plan the right meals for my family to make sure that I am following specific tasks. Once you have planned and prepared the task analysis, it's time to teach the task to the student. Remember to use the teaching strategy you identified previously. You will need to provide modeling and practice the skill frequently. Plan for the students to use the task analysis to complete the activity multiple times during his or her natural daily routines. For example, natural times for teaching hand washing would be after going to the restroom, before lunch or snacks, and after messy activities. It's important to remember the consistency throughout the day. The last step in our process is to monitor the progress. Here are some tips for the classroom data collection. Set up your data collection system right away. Try to organize the data sheets or files within the first week of implementation and keep it updated throughout the year. Data collection is so much easier when built into your schedule. Figure out who will be collecting data and how often it will happen. Write it down and stick with the schedule. For our example of hand washing, I recommend keeping the data collection sheet near the sink. Just as you see in many bathrooms, when you're using public restrooms, you see who is cleaning and when they cleaned. Having the data collection near the sink makes it accessible for whoever's bringing the student to wash their hands, and it's easily able to fill out the information. Be sure to add as much information as possible on the actual data sheet to help with fidelity in your classroom. This is especially important for data that's collected across the day with multiple staff. On the top of the data sheet, you can include the student's IEP goal and objectives, implementation instructions, prompting, and data key. Align your data collection system with your progress monitoring. When you write an IEP goal, also design the data sheet to be sure that you can accurately take data that aligns with the criteria in the goal. For example, if you write a mastery criteria of 4 out of 5 trials, then make sure that your data sheet has a spot to record all 5 trials. If collecting data on paper, have 10 to 20 copies of each available at a designated location. This will hopefully prevent running to the copy machine every morning or pulling up files on your computer. Data collection is a team effort. Everyone needs to be on the same page and understand when, how, and why data is being collected. Remember to review and make decisions based on your data. Data shouldn't be collected just to be stuck in a file. Based on your data, if the student is making progress toward meeting the goal, that's great. Keep using the strategy as you designed it. However, if the student isn't making progress, you'll need to revisit your procedures. There's some questions that you can ask yourself when looking at task analysis. Some questions are, is your task analyzed completely? Are you using the right way to present it to the student? Are you using words when you should be using pictures? Are you using sufficient reinforcement and prompting? Do all staff with the student understand the procedures? Now that we have looked at the steps of creating and implementing a task analysis, I'm going to show you some examples of task analysis that we have used. So the first two task analysis revolve around eating. As you can see on the left-hand side, there's a task analysis for getting lunch. This is paired pictures and words, and it's also a checklist for students. They can use a dry erase marker if it's laminated to quickly check off that they have followed the steps of their task analysis. The task analysis on the right is for eating dinner. This is something that can be used at home to help your student or your child prepare for eating dinner and know the routine that's expected of them. This task analysis is an example for a social cue. This can be used at school. It also can be used in the community. We're about to come up on spring break for many of us, so this is a great time to use this task analysis when your student or child is out in the community. And it's all about introducing yourself. The first thing you do is you look at your friend. You say, hi, I'm Brittany. What's your name? You listen for their name, and then you say hi with their name. These three are examples that could be used in the classroom. I want to note that on the left-hand side, it does not have any pictures and it's just words. This is for a higher functioning student who may be able to follow the simple checklist without having the pictures. The task analysis example that's at the top is all about directions and how a student should be before starting an assignment. This is important for those students who have modified repeated directions. This is how they can understand that their directions, they can understand what their directions are asking them to do. And the task analysis on the right is something that can be placed at a student's desk for them to use when they are completing any assignment. These are two different examples of task analysis. The one on the left is also how to turn in projects or assignments to make sure that your whole checklist is filled. And then the one on the right is asking for help in the classroom. Another community task analysis that we can use in the community is how to use a purchase with a debit card. In this task analysis, it gives detailed instructions along with the picture. And if you notice, the picture is changing every time to show the next steps, matching the words. This is a task analysis for washing clothes. As you can see, there are many tasks that this was broken down into. This is for a student who may not be as high functioning as others, which is requiring more specific tasks to be added to their task analysis. Many of our students are in the process of going through transitions, and some might come with employment opportunities. This is a perfect task analysis to use with pictures and words that can help a student who has a job in a grocery store. And our final example of task analysis today is something that your students may use today at school if they have an Easter party or before spring break in the following weeks. And it's for an Easter egg hunt. Many times, some of our students struggle with having fun with their other peers just because they don't know what to do. Using this task analysis before an Easter egg hunt can help your student feel involved with everyone else and included with everyone in their class. So to finish, I'm going to give you some tips for using the task analysis. So a couple tips are to determine the target behavior or activity. This is something that can be one target behavior to last a whole year, or you determine as a teacher that your students need a little extra help with different things. You can add as many as you need to this, just make sure that it is broken down correctly. You also need to consider the environment in which task analysis can be used. We know we can't use washing hands in the middle of class, so it's important to have the task analysis in the proper locations. We want to use enjoyable, age-appropriate task analysis that is easily followed by the student. And we also want task analysis that can be adjusted for the whole class. We want to use it consistently until the student is fully independent in the skill or activity. And remember, if they are not independent, we may need to make some adjustments to the task. I hope you've enjoyed our lunch and learn today. If you have any questions about what we talked about, you can email Lassard at lassard@lsuhsc.edu. We hope to you join us on our next webinar, Lunch and Learn webinar on video modeling on Friday, May 9th from 12 to 12:30. As I stated before, my name is Brittany Clark, and I really enjoyed doing this Lunch and Learn with you, and I'm so glad that you were able to join us today. On your screen is a QR code for a survey of our Lunch and Learn. If you could please fill that out. Thank you and have a great day.
Good job, Brittany.
Thank you.
You have a good voiceover voice. I texted Melinda about it.
Yeah.
I think that
And it's
you'll be our voiceover queen.
Yeah, he's been promoted.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
you've just been promoted. You have a new hat to wear.
Well, thank you very much for all of your help.
Yeah, it was nice and simple and well organized, and yeah, it was great.
Thank you.
Good examples.
Most of them are from Melinda. Appreciate it.
So once you get the email with the recording, just forward it to Jolie.
Okay.
And then she'll work on her little article to send out.
Okay. And I had sent her a bunch of the examples already too, so she should have that as well.
Awesome.
To your day, guys.
You too.
Yeah.
Have a good
Bye.
weekend. Good job, Brittany.
Thanks.